Today, my guest is a teacher from New Jersey. She teaches Islamic studies to middle school children and she enjoys it. Let us learn about her journey from childhood to adulthood about fasting and how she perceives it today. To all the listeners and followers of this podcast, peace be with you. I'm your host Shwa Khan Arshad and I welcome you to Light Up with Shwa, which is a weekly podcast on conscious living and parenting. Today, Lubna Malik will share some of her stories about fasting when she was growing up. We will learn from her about how she believes in this ritual and practice of fasting and invites you to try it and see how it can benefit you, and a little more about her and her journey. So stay tuned. Today we have our guest. She will introduce herself and we will learn from there what does she do, and from there we will go on with our conversation today, which is focused on fasting.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Sure. My name is Lubna Malik. I teach Islamic studies to middle school at a local Islamic school, Nurul Iman. And I love to study Islam besides teaching it.
Were you always into Islamic studies, teaching, or is that what your passion is?
My undergrad was focused on microbiology, but my family was always what you would classify religious. So we were always learning as a family group. So it was just very natural for me to keep on doing that regardless of whatever else I was studying. So I think that, I mean, I don't consider it separate from learning. I don't consider it separate from anything else. So it's a part of my life.
That's good. Thank you. So let's delve into the topic. Do you fast?
Yes, Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah means?
Which means praise and thanks, all praise and thanks to God Almighty.
Why do you fast, and what's the primary purpose of fasting?
So for Muslims, we fast because it is an obligation in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty has made it mandatory for us to fast in the month of Ramadan. And the primary function that He gives us for fasting is to gain what we call taqwa. And taqwa is, gaining an acute awareness of God, of who He is, of His powers, of His watchfulness upon us, and our relationship, and realizing our relationship to Him.
Okay, thank you.
So
does this also has whatever you have said so far? Are there any other purposes of fasting in your experience and your understanding from Islamic point of view that you have learned?
It breeds a lot of things. It breeds gratitude. It breeds contentment. It makes us more patient. It helps us gain self-control.
Can you give any example? Yeah, sorry. Can you give any example of any of the
well, we
practices?
cannot eat from sunrise to sunset, eat or drink.
So what does that do to you?
So that it helps me control my cravings, those unnecessary trips to the fridge to open it and look inside. Okay, what can I eat now? Because we have because we have so much, I guess we have a tendency of doing that. It's a bad habit. So it helps us get rid of that habit. It
More
allows
like from
us to,
gratitude point, yeah, or from
yeah.
physical
Well,
point of view.
from the physical point of view, from the gratitude point of view, definitely we see how much we have, and we feel the pangs of hunger and pain, um, especially during the beginning part of the month, because we're not used to not eating. So we feel the pain of those who don't have uh, enough to eat. So we are grateful for what we have, and it breeds charity. So we give to those who don't have, whether it's in monetary form or material form. Um, we feel a sense of empathy, so it also breeds empathy. Fasting, thankfulness. We become more thankful for what we have, and it also, since we are cutting ourselves off from, we also, when you're fasting, you're also more acutely aware of what you do, what you say. You try to refrain from anything that is harmful, from anything that is sinful.
Is that
Therefore, you're
for
learning.
everybody?
It is for Muslims. It is
No,
required
but
as
do
a
they?
part of fasting.
Yeah, but do you think that everybody really feels what you are saying while they're fasting? Is that a journal? Can you journalize that?
I think most people do understand that that is part of the fasting, because as you're growing up in a Muslim family, it is taught as, but not necessarily everybody does it or stays aware of it.
Hmm.
Uh, it all depends on how much connection you are building with the Creator, and the more connection you build, or more mindful you are of that connection, then you tend to be more sensitive to, okay, what words am I saying? How am I treating people? What is my attitude that is being generated towards others, or how they may be feeling about what I'm doing? So it all depends on where we are in our level of spirituality and connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
God Almighty. Okay. So, do you recall any, like, when did you start fasting and realize all what you have said? Were you aware of all this at that age, whatever that age was, to share your experience with the young and old?
As I said earlier, right, my family was very uh, religiously oriented. So we were always, it was a festive time. Ramadan was a festive time in our house. And we felt, as younger kids who were not fasting, we felt that it was a privilege to fast. So we looked forward to the time of when we could fast. And I started fasting actually when I was in second grade, I believe.
So you started
Uh,
before when you were in
yeah, I
puberty.
started fasting. I started fasting quite early
But it
because I was
is
just
not
so.
obligatory at that age.
No, that
So
is
you
true.
did
Yes.
start early on, and that is not required. But children
Mm.
do, as you said, festive. It is a festive occasion. It's a festive month, and children are at home. And that's what I was mentioning in my episode too, that it's just natural that I was like, we wanted to really fast, although we didn't know about the value of fasting as such at that age. Unless, I mean, you
Uh,
knew that's good, but I didn't
I
when
mean,
I
I
was
didn't
in third
know
grade.
like the details of it, but I think what was communicated to us through all the unconscious signals that were passed down to us was that it is a time where God is close,
Hmm.
and you can ask Him uh, very intimately, because we have those timings for the prayers. The night prayer is very much emphasized. Not that I would stay up all night and do that, but when the adults were doing it, I would stay up as much as I could,
That's nice.
and
Interesting.
we would read the Quran together, our holy book. And I remember my cousin, who I still am very close to. She would read it to me like a storybook. She would read the ayahs of the Quran, then she would read the translation and then the little bit of explanation. So it was really, it made me become attached to the Quran in a very personal way. It was not a book that was alien. As I grew up, it was not something that was alien to me or something that would scare me. It was something that would teach me. So I guess my connection to it was a little bit more enhanced because of that experience. Not necessarily everybody gets that experience.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get that, and that's really good because it means your parents or adults around you were really aware of that, the value of it, that they inculcated that in you. So that's impressive. That's impressive.
I even like getting up for. I remember my aunt, my dad's sister. Whenever we were visiting them, she would wake me up for the morning prayer. But the way she woke me up, I just could not refuse. It was not harsh. No, it was not harsh.
That's nice.
And we were little, she would be so loving. She would help me, clean myself up for the prayer. So I had a very good,
compassionate, gentle
experience with our religion.
That's excellent. I'm glad you said that because I personally feel that you can run away or be close to your faith, especially learning of our Creator, because ultimately I also believe that that's what matters, because after all the efforts and running around that we do, we have to return to God Almighty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this understanding for me helps me to keep myself in grounded or more calmer and relaxed than many I see. So that's good. Let's move on from there. So I assume that you still fast, and is it a still festive thing in your house?
Yes, it is. My children, they're grown up now, but they still, even when they were younger, they looked forward to the month of Ramadan coming up. It was a little hard for them because here the fasts can be pretty long as well.
Here means
in the U.S.
Yeah, the time.
Especially in the summer months, it's a pretty long fast. But I've fasted in England, where in Europe where it is longer. I fasted in Japan, where it's also really long. It's the land of the rising sun, so it started pretty early and ended pretty late. But that's the beauty of Ramadan. You experience, because we are with the lunar month, it shifts, so you experience its hardship and its ease when it's wintertime. They're really short throughout the year. And
in different time zones.
In different time zones, and you become, I guess it teaches you a lot about life also, that, we go through ease and hardship, but it passes. So everything is transient, everything changes.
Everything is temporary.
It's temporary, yes. So my kids, I tried to do the same with them as it was for me as I was growing up. They were pretty good about it.
Okay.
Receptive of it, yes. And I had the added, I guess, advantage of not just teaching them as a mother. I also taught them as a teacher in a Sunday school. So I think that really helped get my point across, because then their perspective was not, oh no, it's mom telling me again, but okay, everybody's listening and everybody's receiving the same thing. So I think that was an added advantage for me, especially here, outside of a wholly Muslim culture.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I thank God for that.
Yes, thank you. Do you know about intermittent fasting?
Yes, I do. I heard about it, I think it came into it came into being a thing a few years back,
Yeah,
like
exactly. It's a
five,
fad.
six
It's a
years back.
trend now, quite a
Yeah.
bit, and everybody
Yes.
is talking about. So here, I would like to tell my followers or viewers or visitors of this podcast and this episode, those who are listening, that I would encourage you to do, go back to my episode first and number 2, but please do watch the future episodes because I will be bringing the research that has been there on fasting and all those doctors and all those books that I'm referring to. What are they talking about? And all these shows that are so in trend today, talking about intermittent fasting. And just for, I don't know how much you know, Lubna, but uh, they are talking about, and first of all, they are not Muslims and they are fasting like Muslims. One thing.
Mhm.
Second is they are coming to this that how everybody used to ask you, and I also have the memory that aren't you thirsty, and also you don't even drink water and all that. And also people would be very like kind of give you in the beginning, like 30 plus years ago, an impression that as if what a cruel thing to do, right? So
Mm.
now today, um, it's in the West who doesn't matter. They are not majority. Are the ones I am talking about are not Muslims,
Mhm.
unless in their heart I think they are. But I don't think they are practicing Muslims, and they are
Okay.
talking about fasting. Is it hard for you to fast now, or is it just another thing? And it's like, are you still comfortably doing it?
No, I don't. Actually, in the month of Ramadan, and everybody across the board, whoever I've talked to about this, says that it's so much easier to fast in Ramadan than it is outside of Ramadan. So Allah puts some kind of blessing into it that, you fast for a whole month, but you don't feel it. You look forward to it. You feel sad when it's going away. So, no, I don't find it hard.
So do you
Thankfully.
also do the prophetic traditional fasting during the year, or have you
The
seen?
Monday and Thursdays. I've seen
Yeah.
people do it. I don't do it as regularly as I should.
Hmm.
Actually, this is the our month of Rajab, 2 months away from Ramadan. So we are encouraging in our school, because it's an Islamic school, we're encouraging people to fast Mondays and Thursdays, and the 3 white days in between, in the middle of the month. So yeah, I plan to try and fast as much as I
Hmm.
can this month and the next month, which is Shaban.
Hmm.
But there's something interesting about intermittent fasting that I just realized about it as you were talking
Hmm.
just now about it. That usually what I see in intermittent fasting is that your window of eating is during the day, and then you don't eat from a certain time in the evening to a certain time in the morning. But ours is kind of flipped. So I think if we want to exercise intermittent fasting, which is much, much more beneficial, we might have to, or people might have to revert to that one to actually gain the most benefit from it. And that's just my
That's a
opinion.
very good point,
Giving,
actually. You know what?
I'm not giving a scientific evaluation here or anything. Just
Yes, I know.
when you were
Right, right.
saying, you were talking about it, I just
Mhm.
realized that.
Well, to add to that, as we are very focused or kind of little bit obsessed with the productivity in the West, maybe if we are fasting during the day, and the way they are convincing all these doctors and all these scientists and all in the West that you should fast and all, they might be more productive because then they will be not worrying about the breakfast and the whatever the foods in during the day. They can have just, and it's not like you're supposed to eat all night. You just have your early morning meal and then that's it, forget about it. And
Mhm.
anyways, there is so much research coming that you won't believe. And then I'll talk about that 100-year-old institute in Germany that has been researching. And definitely they're not from Muslim country or Islamic. They don't practice Islam or the rituals of Muslims. So anyways, let's move on. Sorry, go ahead.
Just one last thing. I was also watching a doc. I forget, it was some time back when intermittent fasting was just coming up.
Yep.
They were showing a documentary about some place in some institute in Russia that does an extreme kind of fasting to break diseases like diabetes, heart disease, cholesterol, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and they were showing but that kind of fasting, I don't know if that was from here, but that kind of fasting is extreme, and it needs to be
monitored. It has to be supervised. Yes. That's what they do in Germany as well. It's therapeutic fasting, however you want to say it. And that's what it is. And it has to be monitored, that kind of fasting. And these doctors that I will be talking about, that they are talking about these things, that they are doctors, because doctors never talked in the West about fasting. And now they are fasting. So I will be bringing that research. I'm in the process of reading those books. Good. So I'm not going to mention those books here. I have done it in my first and second episode, but I will be talking about it. And they are practicing doctors, and they are in the West. So that's the interesting part.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Need to get Lubna going in exploring her fasting rituals, or maybe something we might find, audience, that we have never known before. Let's go. So you do wait, and you like Ramadan and all. So do you work out or exercise during Ramadan, the month of Ramadan?
When I was younger, I used to. I mean, when we were fasting, you can, yeah.
Okay.
I can if I want to. Now I'm much older, and I mean, I used to play sports. We would play basketball, squash.
You can still do that. You're not old. You can never be old. It's your attitude.
No. I mean, in school,
I know.
We would. Our parents never gave us. Here, I see, or maybe it's a thing now, that the parents request that the child during lunchtime can go to the library, or they can be excused from gym. We had no such luxury. Our parents did not believe in that. We didn't even, we didn't even think about asking them, because it was such a part of our routine that, okay, so you're fasting, but you're still living in the real world. And I think that's the thing about fasting. That's one of the things that it teaches us, that, the people who don't have food to eat, they still go through their day regardless. So it teaches us more perseverance, more patience, more control, and teaches us the fact that life goes on, and you have to deal with what comes your way.
Do you think it is more of a training also, when there are food shortages, and doesn't matter how much money you have? I also see that. How do you see this?
Yes, it is.
Perspective?
It is a training on many levels, right? But it also teaches you that you don't need that much food to be healthy.
That's actually the real revelation, in my view. Yep.
Yeah.
So, any story you would like to share before I move on to other questions? Any story? And if it is not coming to you now, we can talk about it later. But I wanted to throw this question out at you, if you want to share for our audience any interesting story that might motivate my listeners to write to us and say, "Wow." And if not now, then I can go to my next question, and you can, in the meantime, think about it.
Yeah, I can't remember any right off the bat.
Okay.
So let's go to the next question, and I think it might come back some story. I'm sure you have many.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many.
Yeah, would you recommend people to fast, and why? Let's say somebody's not a Muslim. What would you tell them? And then if it's a Muslim, you don't need to tell them, because they're going to tell you that, are you going to tell me? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I just want to...
I do tell my students.
And what do they say?
They say, yeah, we know.
Okay, exactly. So let's say you have a colleague who is not, born in a Muslim household and doesn't have a clue about fasting. What would you say to them?
I would say to them to try it, especially if they're with the mindset that, oh my God, how can you do this? How can you live without food and water for so many hours? It's a mindset, right? It's a perspective that we carry. I would encourage them to try it, maybe in baby steps, like not eat, like that's how we learn, right? You do a half a fast from the time you get up to the time to like 12 o'clock, half a day.
Yeah.
So, and then increase the time.
When we are younger, or the children want to go for longer times, and then they're not supposed to, because they're still growing.
And it's hard. It's hard for them. Actually, I just remembered the story.
Yeah, see?
from this conversation. That when I was much younger,
if you find this episode valuable or interesting, then please share it with your family and friends. I would be delighted if you can leave a comment or a review. And do visit my website, lightupwithshwa.com, and find out more about this podcast and other programs offered by LUWS Academy, LLC. And remember to be healthy and hopeful. This is part 1 of our conversation. I hope you enjoyed listening to Lubna Malik today about her relationship with fasting. Do listen to part 2, which will be published on this Thursday, which is tomorrow. And remember to let me know if you fast or are planning to fast. Make an informed decision. If you haven't fasted before, take an advice of a doctor or an expert who knows about fasting. You can write to me, and I can share some resources with you as well. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Light Up with Shwa, and hope you will join me again next week. Sometimes I plan to post more than once, so if you are subscribed to this podcast, you will not miss any important episode. And remember to ask yourself, what lights you up? Stay well and stay in harmony. See you next week.